your thoughts. I'm going to just start off here and say I can't stand versus questions. And honestly, this goes out to all you Spill listeners. If you're having a community or forum or something about, hey, it's the versus thing, I'm not going to be a part of it. I can't stand that stuff. I think it's pointless. That's just for me personally. Now, while I would love to in comics see something like you said, I want to see Hulk fight Superman. Sure, I want to see that, but I don't want to sit around and be hypothetical about who would win. I just want to see someone actually do it.
I don't even like seeing the fights anymore because it is like, well, look, you're DC, I'm Marvel. Your guy has to get 6 hits in. My guy has to get 6 hits in. And then they'll figure out that they were mistaken and they'll team up.
Yeah, and then you've got the amalgam crap, which it was.
We weren't even going to discuss that.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry for saying that word.
I think there was a Batman Spider-Man once I read that wasn't too bad, if I'm not mistaken. I think they even got a decent guy to write it. But overall, those DC Marvel crossovers...
Yeah. I will go ahead and answer your question. The Joker wins.
Yeah.
The Riddler sucks. All right?
I mean, we're not... this question...
This doesn't even need to be debated.
This isn't even a fight question. This is a better question.
I did answer that guy's question, and I was able to point it out. I mean, you can settle this really easily. On the Joker side, you have The Dark Knight Returns and The Killing Joke. And on the Riddler side, you have nothing that compares even close to either one of those.
Wasn't he like a spoiler, big mastermind in like Hush or something like that?
Yeah, but Hush was a piece of shit.
Yeah, Hush actually like
most
really
overrated Batman comic
castrated.
It was a great
the
Buffy
other
episode,
villains.
though.
Yes, it was.
Hush castrated like all the other villains, as I recall.
Well,
and it was
Hush was just an excuse to have the artist Jim Lee draw all of the characters in Batman's Rogues Gallery for 12 issues, and they had one good idea, which was to have Jason Todd be the guy, the ex-Robin, the Robin who everybody thought was dead, be the one who was behind it all.
By good idea.
Oh, oops, it wasn't really him, it was Clayface. So that one good idea they shot in the foot, and it was nullified. But the fact is, as far as Batman and the Riddler goes, Batman defeats the Riddler every time. The Riddler's never a threat for him. And the only reason Batman lets the Riddler get out because
you never see Batman fretting about, maybe I should kill the Riddler.
I've actually read some good Riddler stories, but they pale in comparison to the number of good Joker stories.
The Riddler is kind of like I like to work the crossword puzzle in The Onion every week. And that's what the Riddler is to Batman. He's this guy who will offer me a bit of a challenge. It'll be fun because I'll have to think about it, but I know I'm going to beat it.
Strangely, that is one of the few things the first 5 movies got right. The Joker's Jack Nicholson, the Riddler's Jim Carrey.
Definitely.
Wow. Yeah, you didn't need to mention that, but no, there are actually some good Joker stories from like the Riddler stories from the early 90s to mid 90s. Like there's one where Batman's chasing the Riddler through the sewers, and he finds an infant in a crib.
I saw that. He has to give the infant a
tracheotomy. Yeah,
with an empty ballpoint pen or something.
Yeah, he gives Batman everything he needs to do like a field tracheotomy, and it's really gruesome and really kind of intense. But again, compared to the Joker, it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean. The Riddler's a great iconic villain, just in like, wow, a guy who has to give himself away.
And honestly, mostly it's because of Frank Gorshin.
Yeah, I will totally shout out to Frank Gorshin.
Yeah,
best of the original Batman '60s TV series.
Oh yeah,
best villain ever. Period. End of sentence. And best costume, best wardrobe. That green suit covered with question marks.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like, all he needed was some star glasses and he would have looked like Bootsy fucking Collins.
Who would play the Riddler in a Christopher Nolan movie?
All right, the first guy who says Robin Williams gets a shot in the head.
Steve Buscemi, dude. Steve Buscemi would be a perfect Riddler.
By the way, I was kidding about Dane Cook. I hate Dane Cook. I don't think it's funny at all. Steve Buscemi. That's a Riddler for you right there.
Let me erase your name from people I need to kill, Leon. Steve Buscemi. I dig that. Okay.
Haven't we listed him before for somebody that we just? I think Steve Buscemi is like that default. Like for almost anything, you're like
any of the nebbish villains. Like you could totally like Mole Man, Steve Buscemi, Riddler, Steve Buscemi.
You remember it's a babe with the power of voodoo. You do. My beauty. the baby.
People are staying away from mentioning Frank Miller with this whole Dark Knight thing lately, and I think it's partially because, well, let's face it, he's gone completely batshit
He's
insane.
lost in crazy monkey mind.
He has
Yeah,
a
I was going to say that.
complete.
Yeah, he's
bat
one step
insanity.
away from founding his own religion and describing women as all holes.
Yeah. If you read the last Batman thing he did, All-Star Batman and Robin, it's where, if you've seen on the net people saying, "I'm the goddamn Batman," it's making fun of Batman and his writing. It's not a positive thing.
Yeah.
It was so awful that I just have a hard time believing that he really
That
did it
aliens
on
did not
purpose.
kidnap him and suck out his mind.
I'm like, is this some part of some greater? Are you still the same Frank Miller? Wrote all this
Yeah.
brilliant stuff.
Well,
like
I gotta say,
Ronin and
Well, like I said,
Leon
Dark
called
Knight
this a while
Returns?
back with Dark Knight Strikes Back. He was like, "Listen, Miller's gone off the reservation. It's done.
He's cuckoo, daddy.
He wrote The Dark Knight Returns, one of the greatest graphic novels of all time. Still,
One of-
25 years later, still.
Yeah, one of
still
the three
ever.
best comic book stories
Yeah,
ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then he wrote the sequel, The
Batman
Dark Knight
Hero-
Strikes Back, which is one of the worst.
Yeah.
And
It had some good moments.
The lead up, I was like, oh, I'm all into this. And then it was like, really? That's where you're going to go?
And before he did it, he had vowed that he would never write for DC Comics again.
Huh.
But then his buddy Bob Schreck, who got an editor position, I think I explained this last time.
Yeah.
Was able to woo him back. But it's almost like he said, like, fine, I'll write Batman again. I'll write him in such a way that you will never ask me to do this ever again.
See, but that's what I thought too. But he keeps
He keeps doing it, right.
He has a new book coming out called Holy Terror Batman.
Well, that's has a release date been announced for that? Because I don't know if it's ever coming out. Because it was like a year and a half ago
He's
when that was
been
announced.
just been doing a lot of press about this lately.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay.
it looks like it's definitely happening.
I didn't
And
think it was going to happen
the reason
because
this
there was a whole. I'm sorry. There was a Holy Terror, Batman Holy Terror was an Elseworld story from several years ago
Oh,
no,
okay.
this is
about a
this is-
theocracy and all that. But anyway,
well,
I'm
this
sorry.
is
Go ahead.
in some ways similar because Gotham has been attacked by Al Qaeda, and Batman sets out to defend the city he loves. Apparently, it's going to run 200 pages. Accordingly, he's inked about 120 of them. He's doing the artwork himself.
I'm sure he's in a padded room with a live rat's tail that he dips into a bottle of ink to do this.
He flat out calls it propaganda where Batman kicks Al Qaeda's ass because apparently he thinks that all of Americans are a bunch of pussies, and he flat out says so.
Wait a minute. Okay, Frank Miller thinks...
Yeah, because, we didn't go to war over this or
No,
anything.
Frank Miller
oh,
thinks,
wait a minute.
Frank Miller thinks Americans are a bunch of pussies for not fighting Al Qaeda. So his way of fighting Al Qaeda is to draw a Batman comic book.
He says Superman punched out Hitler. So did Captain America. That's one of the things they're there for. These are our folk heroes. It just seems silly to chase around the Riddler when you've got Al Qaeda out there.
What are you doing, Frank? Oh,
You know,
You're
What
making
about
funny
the
books.
millions of dictators that have turned up since Hitler that we did absolutely nothing about?
I have to say, yes, I do think Frank Miller is crazy, but I think he also has a point. I think that Miller is saying, listen, we were addressing these villains and saying, these are the bad guys, but no one in comic books or even pop culture or anything has really said these are the bad guys. Everyone wants to say, well, they're not getting their rights in Guantanamo, which is true. Which is true. But
Yeah, and that was true. And we were addressing these big villains like Mussolini and Hitler and Tojo in a format that was 4 colors and as black and white morally as you could possibly get. There was good guys and there was bad guys, and there was nothing in the middle whatsoever. Are you going to compare that to the comic scene of today, where there are so many shades of gray? And are you going to compare the Nazis to Al Qaeda?
yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, and I can't argue with that. I really can't. But I think the ultimate message that Miller might be trying to say, and of course I'm kind of just guessing here, but that I think he's trying to remind everyone: listen, there are bad guys out there, and to us, Al Qaeda. They're the bad guys.
I don't think anybody that reads comics ever has any doubt about that.
Is
you
Miller
wouldn't read
gonna-
comics if you didn't believe in some at least fractal amount that evil exists.
Is Miller going to feature the part where the mayor of Gotham arms and trains the Al Qaeda first before they attack Gotham? Is he going to mention that?
That would be really cool.
The
yeah.
thing that's really I'm sorry, Lynn. The thing that's really disappointing to me about this is if you go back and read The Dark Knight, or especially like the Martha Washington series.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was smarter than Frank Miller when it came to how the media manipulates images and manipulates people's beliefs. And
I think
coming about, and I mean, this is the Dennis Miller moment. Oh my God, he's lost his mind.
Well, I think he's beat that horse already. You know?
But he's
I don't
going
think you
the
can beat that
opposite
horse
direction.
enough.
Sure,
He's
but-
saying, I
Yeah.
bought into it. Totally.
Yeah, he's saying, well, then I'll use the media to manipulate people.
Yeah, I mean, and getting back to those old World War II comics where everybody fought, the Nazis and the Japanese. That's where we got villains like the Yellow Claw and the Mandarin, and
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny nips the nips. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the danger you run with this holy terror that he's doing. It's like,
Yeah.
we're a lot more educated now. Somebody might say we're more politically correct. Well, you know what? There's something to political correctness. It's called the lack of ignorance. It's more knowledge. It's like, hey, it's not really cool to demonize a whole race because
Sure.
of what some
Yeah.
people do.
Right on.
I mean, as far as people who say like I hate political correctness, it's like, no, I don't hate anything that goes overboard. But if political correctness means you don't get to call me boy or nigger just because you feel like it, I'm all for it.
But I don't think that's what political correctness is.
But it is.
I don't agree with that.
No. It's saying like, look, I'm saying like, hey, I don't like being called that. You might have done it for centuries, but I don't like it. And now here's something to back me up to make you not do that.
I feel bad because I wish you'd brought this up sooner because I always say this is my boy Leon, and
He stands outside on my porch holding
Leon,
a
put the
lantern.
jockey outfit back on, Leon.
Okay, so Jason and your dad can call you boy, but I am still restricted.
Well,
from
no,
that.
I think.
Oh, I'm totally gonna beat the shit out of Jason. This is over with.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I think Frank Miller's heart might be in the right place, but I think he's probably pretty misguided. I think there is some importance in remembering that there are monsters out there, that there are bad guys in our real world. But I don't think, and this is something that happened, it's that kind of thinking that also led to Japanese internment camps during World War II.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think he's trying to remind everyone, yes, there are monsters out there. They're real. Don't politicize them. Let's not say, oh, well, they deserve equal rights and everything. There were guys that killed 3,000 people, but
And don't get me wrong, if Osama bin Laden walked in this room right now, I would go out back, get my shovel, and beat him to death.
right,
Yeah.
and I think that's what Miller's. And honestly, we can't really say anything until we've read it. But
I
honestly,
have a
Miller
hard-
has lost his damn mind, and I think we're probably in for something that just drips of racism.
How can I be critical of these guys that are so okay? Automatically, first off, Osama, as you said, Osama bin Laden. Yeah, I'd beat the shit out of him. I would bury him in my backyard in an unmarked grave. Yes, I would. Okay, yeah, the guy is a bad guy, and so are the people who believe in the same shit he does. But you know what? There are some bad motherfuckers in our own government who are just as bad as he is. And a lot of these guys, we would have caught this motherfucker by now if not for these people who are like, you know what, it's not cost effective. We got what we wanted from him. Okay, we got them to let us do whatever the fuck we wanted to with the whole point of the Iraq War in the first place, which had nothing to do with 9/11.
Yeah, once again, to quote Patton Oswalt, if the standard for being impeached is getting a blowjob or lying about real estate, then this current administration should have been like executed on the front lawn of the White House with Aerosmith playing in the background like
Okay,
a couple of months ago.
Let's not get off topic.
Just so I'm clear, this is the thing where the show where we talk about comics.
Yeah,
and movies.
Leon.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Didn't the whole
So who do you like better, Betty or Veronica?
seriously? All right.
You know what? I'm more into brunettes, but there's something about Betty that I prefer.
You know,
I
I would have a
do
hard
Betty,
time
too.
choosing between the two.
Are
Thank
we
God they
really
haven't
gonna
introduced
do
a
this?
redhead.
Are we really going to do better
Hell
than
yeah.
Veronica?
They've got a redhead,
Okay,
Cheryl Blossom.
Wilma or Betty?
Cheryl Blossom. There we go.
I'm all about Wilma myself.
Hey, ask Greg. Betty, Veronica, or Cheryl?
I'm a musician.
Cheryl Blossom, she's a redhead.
No, but see, I'm a musician. I get all three. So
Okay, yeah. You don't get to come.
Yeah, just for that, we're going to make you play Sugar Sugar
I totally forgot
133
how much I hate
times
musicians.
until it never gets out of your head.
Wilma or Betty? Which one of them likes pearl necklaces? I can't remember.
That's Wilma.
Okay.
Well,
Veronica.
dude, redheads are your kryptonite. I'm not even asking you.
It's
I know what your
totally
answer
true,
is.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you don't know how he is about
No,
redheads.
it's
Me
awful.
too.
It's like, and the thing is, like, I know better
Bastards,
now.
stay away from me.
I know. So I got this really interesting letter from a user named Daniel I haven't talked to before. Now, Leon and I are both of, questionable situation in the matter of faith goes. We don't like to declare how we feel about it, but we both, we have our questions. But regardless, Daniel, who's a priest in training, has an interesting letter. He says, just really want to shout out and say thank you for all your work on Spill, mostly the Leogs. I am currently in the seminary. Go ahead.
Don't you feel like at this point, like the priest should really change the name?
We
of that
really got to change that name, guys.
There's got to be a better name. Undergoing some intense training for the Catholic priesthood. Don't freak out, as I am hardcore as the priest from Eric the Viking. Which, to be honest, I don't even remember all that.
But was there a priest in
Yeah, an
Eric
Eric
the
Viking reference. You don't get those.
Movies have really become my escape, and thus so is Spill in so many ways. But Leog has become something really special to me because of all
Try
the
going
talks.
outside.
Because of all the talks of comic books and stuff, because I love them so much. Yes, I do agree. Jesus would be pretty cool if he shot fireballs and he could fly. Yet anyway.
Wait, are you saying that he couldn't?
I was going to say, don't you think Jesus could if he wanted
Doesn't
to?
have to. Superman is already an amalgam of Jesus and Hercules.
Yeah, no, but I mean, in the Jesus mythology, in the
What's the question?
in the realm of Jesus belief,
Sure.
Okay, let's say that they hired someone else to keep writing the Jesus story afterwards.
Like Mark Millar, who I'm sure already has a Jesus series in the works.
God.
Okay, let's face it.
Richard Donner's The Bible.
No, it would be Grant Morrison, let's face it.
No, Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis would write the best Jesus
Well,
stories.
he did, actually. But
Yeah.
regardless of that, no, let's say if it took place right after the end of Jesus' involvement in the Bible, it would be Grant Morrison.
Sure.
It would be like the whole Mary Magdalene and him having children and him being...
No. It would be Frank Miller, because Mary Magdalene was a hoe.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, if you're gonna write whores,
one.
you got to have Frank Miller. Because
Anyway.
he can't write women as anything but whores.
I apologize.
Corner market.
I apologize, Daniel. I do.
We respect you.
We respect you.
Let's
and
get
your
back to
right
Daniel's
believe what you
question.
want. But his actual question for us to tackle, as he puts it, you have done a lot of talk about superheroes. How about villains? Who's your favorite villain and why? As well, who do you think is the coolest for whatever reason, due to powers, weapons, looks, story, etc., etc.? And now let's stay away from movies here. Let's just do this as comics, because that's a discussion for an entire Leog in and of itself. But let's just say, in comics, who is the coolest villain ever?
I always dug the Sentinels, actually, from the X-Men. Yeah,
Good
just
answer.
because they're faceless and so many of them, and God, giant killer robots. Can't go wrong with that, right? And ask me tomorrow, of course, like any of these guys. Ask me tomorrow, and it'll probably be a different answer. But right now, I think the Sentinels.
Yeah.
Boy, Dr. Doom has always been my favorite.
Doom is
Dude,
good
I
stuff.
was debating whether to say that.
The fact that he's just so regal and so arrogant, and half the time they go to Latveria, and it's like, oh, he's a dictator and a despot, and we have to stop him. And then sometimes they depose him or they kill him, and then the Latvians go like, what are you talking about? He made the trains run on time. We love that guy. Well, sure, he had his bad days,
Yeah,
but
every now and then he'd kill a few of us, but so what?
I would say Magneto, but there's been so much stuff done with his character
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
I hate. There are runs of Magneto that by far make him the most interesting villain, but
Is
then
he
they
a villain?
fuck it all up.
Is he
well,
a
he's
hero?
he's cool when he's like
No,
the
but
Malcolm X of the
Yeah.
mutants.
Exactly. That's why he's interesting,
Yeah.
because he's got a really good point.
I really thought you were going to say Carnage.
Carnage would fall under my least favorite villains. Be clear, he sucks. But if we're talking about overall, like including all comics, I'm going to go with the Saint of All Killers from Preacher, who I just adore. And it's not just because essentially
Was he a
he's
bad
an
guy?
undead Clint
Yeah,
Clint
it's kind of up
Eastwood.
there, but
You
I
know.
didn't think he was a villain.
One of the best villains? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Ozymandias.
oh yeah,
Well, from
yeah.
the Watchmen.
from the
Yeah,
Watchmen.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is, spoiler,
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, dick. Now I can't go watch the
For those
movie.
of you that haven't read that comic book from 20 fucking years ago.
okay, thanks, Summer's Eve. Okay.
All right. I was
Did you just call me a douche?
I was gonna get all arty and say Society from V for Vendetta, but then I realized what a complete and utter ass monkey that would make me
Then
sound
you realized
like.
I would have reached over and punched you in the throat.
Exactly. So I'm throwing it all out, dude. You know who my favorite villain is? fucking Joker, dude. Come
Hell
on.
yeah.
He is, I mean, the Joker is, I'm going to get little kid on you. He's just awesome, man. He's so unapologetically evil. In fact, he just revels in it. He's like, hell yeah, I like to go to the mall so I can kill everybody in the mall. That's my favorite thing to do.
The thing is, that was the correct answer all along.
The most chilling line I have ever read in a comic, and after all of this bagging that we've done on Frank Miller, in The Dark Knight Returns, there is one sequence where he is on a talk show where he kills everybody who is in the audience and the talk show host. But before he does that, the talk show host says, "So, how many people have you killed?" And the Joker says, "I don't keep count." And then later on in the issue, he's at a fair poisoning people with cotton candy, including a troop of Boy Scouts. And the voiceover in his head goes, you could line them all up like a Busby Berkeley musical, and fly me out over them, and it would never be enough. I don't keep count, but you do, meaning the Batman, and I love you for it. And that line just chilled my shit more than anything a villain in any other comic has ever said.
You're kind of creeping me out.
It's
Yes.
one of the most defining lines for the Joker and why he and the Batman are such perfect enemies in the first place.
And another reason why The Dark Knight is so damn good, because they hit that nail square on the damn head.
We got so many questions this time. I had no idea that the last one was as big a hit as it was. Apparently, for whatever reason, it was our breakout league. And so this time I had so many more questions than we can.
It's because I did it without pants.
That might have come across on some level.
So are we going to do like a lightning round now?
We're going to do a lightning round of these
sweet.
questions because I don't want you guys to feel like we're ignoring you. And there's no way, even with the lightning round, I can get to all these questions.
There's no way, even with the lightning round, Bo won't pontificate for 30 minutes.
Calzone asks, who do you think, in your opinion, is the most underrated director out there today? My personal choice would be Paul Thomas Anderson. He hasn't made one film I didn't like, and I feel he should be given more work. But which I personally is like, really? You think he's underrated?
Yeah.
Yeah, how is he underrated?
pretty
People
My
sure
God,
people
every
bring his
critic in
name
the
up all
world
the
kisses
time.
his ass.
Extremely well known.
Especially
Calzone
after
is
There Will
high.
Be Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's say as far as like, honestly.
Oh, not
Yeah,
Paul
if-
W.S. Anderson, Paul Thomas
If you've
Anderson.
won an Oscar,
But
you
but
don't count.
honestly, Leon, you had something. Quick answer for this.
Oh, like one of my favorite directors, maybe like underrated that I bring up all the time is Alexander Payne. Everybody says, "Who's Alexander Payne?" Well, he's made the movie most famously recently, Sideways. But my more favorite movie is About Schmidt, and there's Election with Matthew Broderick and Citizen Ruth. And the thing about I think all these movies are well written, very funny, but in a very poignant and I want to say mature way. And the thing that knits all his movies together is that he has characters who lie to themselves about themselves, and it makes them so honest. If that makes any sense, it's like the way people are. People tell themselves things. They have little stories about themselves that keeps them going, and his characters are that way, and I love that about him.
Jason?
Brad Anderson, director of Session 9 and The Machinist.
Ooh,
Yeah,
interesting.
He's probably one of my favorite working directors today because at least those two, particularly, they are they're horror movies, but they all deal with, in some sense, the nature of reality and I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, it's good, very paranoid, creepy, very austere settings. God, it's just, yeah.
I
my
like
favorite.
both those films as well. Bo?
I'd say Phil Kaufman, and the reason I want his movies aren't
No
obscure at
jacket
all.
required.
Yeah, his movies aren't obscure at all, but nobody knows it was the same guy who directed it. The Right Stuff, Henry and June, Unbearable Lightness of Being, Quills. He not only
Quills!
directed,
I love Quills.
Yeah, he not only directed them all, he wrote all of them. And I mean,
Nice. Wow.
he's amazingly talented, and nobody knows who the hell he is. I've never been able to figure it out, but yeah, definitely one of my favorite directors of all time.
One of my favorites is Alejandro Jodorowsky, which is a Spanish director.
You are so fucked up.
I know. And his
Wait,
Why
how
we
is
gotta be that in the
Jodorowsky
mountain?
Spanish?
yeah,
That's
he-
about as Polish as you can get.
No, he's
Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His whole thing is lots of LSD and God, I hate the Catholics.
He's like Carlos
No offense,
Castaneda.
Daniel. But that's the thing. He's made movies: El Topo, The Holy Mountain,
Almost
Santa
made
Sangre,
Dune back in the 70s.
Almost made Dune. No, he hasn't made a movie in 30 years, something like
Because
that.
he's institutionalized.
No. He's getting started. He's been writing comic books since then.
Yeah.
He's writing for the heavy metal press guys. He's written hundreds of graphic novels for them, but now he's getting back into making movies.
They're
again.
circulated throughout the inmates of Arkham Asylum.
He's written thousands of comics on pieces of toilet paper with a tiny pencil he smuggled into the institution in his anus.
Jay says, I was just browsing around the internet, and upon my journey, I looked up the Avengers movie. Are they really going to go through with this?
No.
What's the lineup?
No.
What's the lineup going to be if there is an Avengers
Well,
movie?
you're just
Leon.
throwing raw meat to Leon, aren't you?
Yeah.
Take it
At
away.
this point, y'all know what all our answers are about this, but it's just fun to watch him froth at the mouth.
I'm not frothing. I'm just like, you know what? You guys, you will get your Avengers movie because they promised it, but it will not be the great movie that you're expecting. You're expecting something on the caliber of Iron Man, and it's going to be
That
more...
wasn't the question.
Fine. Fine. You'll get an Avengers movie that's heavily bad CG with a couple of cameos by Robert Downey Jr. It'll feature Iron Man and Thor and Ant-Man and
someone
the
else
Wasp
is the Hulk.
and Captain America.
Okay,
and they'll be hunting the Hulk.
What about the other characters, though?
Hawkeye. I'm sorry. Hawkeye will be in there.
You think there'll be a Hawkeye?
I do.
Okay. What about
because Hawkeye's easy to do.
the Wasp?
I said the Wasp.
Oh, did you say the Wasp?
Yeah,
I'm
they
sorry.
get the Ant-Man because when it comes to the Avengers, you can't have Ant-Man without the Wasp.
Is the Sentry going to be in it, Leon?
Who? The Sentry?
Yeah, he's an Avenger. I'm going to tell you right now,
No.
he's an Avenger.
Yeah, no, the
What
Sentry
about
sucks.
what about the Black Captain Marvel with the afro? That chick.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
she's dead.
Is
she?
Well, yeah, but not necessarily in the movie.
She was cool. I liked her. In a What If, she beat the shit out of Venom.
yeah.
Monica Rambeau.
Monica Rambeau.
Yes, of
Yeah,
the
she's-
New
she's
Orleans
Cajun.
Port Authority.
Geek test, you fail.
Champ 0215, also known as John, asks, do you believe that Marvel is trying to make too many films? The answer is probably.
What's too many films? I mean, okay,
Ant-Man, Black Panther, Cloak and Dagger, Daredevil 2,
Cloak and Dagger?
Deathlock,
Get the fuck out.
Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider 2, yes, I know, The Hands of Shang-Chi, Iron Fist,
on.
Luke Cage, Magneto, Nick Fury, Runaways, Namor the Submariner,
You can
Silver
stop now.
Surfer, and Venom. Oh, and The Punisher, Wolverine, Iron Man 2,
You can stop
Thor,
now.
Captain America, Spider-Man 4, and the Avengers.
There was one too many
let
with Venom, and then everything else is okay.
let me say this to anybody listening. That list might seem very long to you. Like, wow, they got a lot of movies in production. Well, guess what? That's the length of the movies they've had in production for the last 20 years. In production doesn't mean jack shit.
Yeah, no, it does
Everybody-
not mean
In
greenlit.
production means that's as low as somebody's working, scribbling an idea on a cocktail napkin. That's in production.
Yeah.
They always have these mini movies out. People have optioned them. They're quote unquote working on them. It doesn't mean they'll come to fruition. I mean, there's only a handful of movies ever made from the thousands that are in production at one
By
time.
this definition, there's a movie in production of me and Scarlett Johansson having sex. Okay,
In your
because
brain.
I've discussed it with someone.
Well, that's true.
It's
That's
in
true.
production.
That's true. By the fact that you've mentioned it on here, it's
Yes,
in production.
it-
For comics people, or especially comics artists, we were all taught to like, hey, you have to worship Jack
Will
Kirby
Eisner.
and Will Eisner.
Sure.
And Jack Kirby is one that like I'm not the only artist or person who like at first did not like Jack Kirby's art and then later came to really, really appreciate it. And for a lot of people, I think, you know, like because Frank Miller beat the drum so much, it's like, oh wow, this Will Eisner was a genius too. And while I appreciate Will Eisner's art, I never fell in love with it. He's like the guy I'm supposed to love and I don't. And the Spirit is that character
Yeah.
I'm supposed to love and I don't.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons when I had
Is
a friend
the running racist caricature
Yes!
he's had going for
Thank
years.
you, Mr. Bo, because I had a friend in high school, a guy who I used to do comics with. He wrote him and I drew him. He's like, you got to check out these spirits. And I open it up, and it's this character, Ebony, who is a direct Sambo. He's a midget
Yeah.
with big, he's black with big white lips.
No, big red lips, huge googly white eyes,
Yeah,
big
but
white
his-
teeth.
Oh, yeah, Mr.
His
Spirit, what we
restaurant-
gonna do
What are we
next?
gonna do, Mr.
Boss?
restaurant
Oh,
has
wait, you thought
kick-ass
this was
cheeseburgers.
racist. Oh.
And I'm like, dude, why'd you show this to me? And he's like, well, you have to get past that. I'm like,
You know,
maybe we should
Mr.
meet in
Steinberg, you're gonna have to get over the whole Holocaust thing.
Well, it's
Come on.
to get to like Jack Kirby, it's like I can totally understand people not